Well, what you're doing is you're poisoning your baby. That's what's really happening, and a lot of people don't want to hear it. But my wife did go on Tasha K, and she mentioned that she wondered that about Cardi B, and Cardi got very upset. Cardi sent my wife an Instagram message the next morning, basically acting like she was going to follow up with her lawyers. She never did. Maybe she will. I have no idea. But this is something that I think everyone should know about. So the reality is, so anyway, let's go back to Blueface and Krishan Rock. I don't want to keep on going on these tangents, but Blueface and Krishan Rock were interesting to me because if you remember Bobby and Whitney, if you remember how Bobby and Whitney had that slow spiral and everybody saw it, it was like watching a train wreck in slow motion. Like you knew that the Bobby Whitney debacle was going to end in either death or incarceration, which they kind of experienced all of that. Whitney died, her daughter died. I think the boyfriend of the daughter did he die too? I think he died. A lot of death, a lot of sadness, a lot of pain that comes from drugs and devastation. So Bobby Brown's gone through a lot. Well, Krishan Rock and Blueface remind me of the modern day Bobby and Whitney. There were some drugs around. There was a lot of shenanigans, a lot of unhealthy behavior that was allegedly part of, quote unquote, the culture. They was being celebrated. They were on, tabloids. They were all over the internet. Shade Room would have them up there every other day. So what happens is that, this is how they put the sugar in the monkey shit. If you remember the analogy earlier where I said they give you a birthday cake, but it's really monkey shit. And so you put your face in the birthday cake thinking you're eating cake, but you're really eating monkey shit. But it tastes okay because they put a lot of sugar in it. Well, that's kind of what I see when I see the culture, right? So you have two significantly psychologically unhealthy people in this horrifically toxic, terrible relationship that both of these individuals are showing significant signs of mental psychological instability, fueled by drugs, just irresponsible, unhealthy behavior. First time I ever heard about Blueface was when he told me that he'd had sex with 3,000 women. I think it was like 2,000 or 3,000 women. And that tells me about the STD rates in the Black community, why they're out of control. And it makes me wonder not just why he would do something like that, but also why he would then announce it to the world, and then also why women would want to sleep with him. And the reason the women slept with him is because he was famous. And so this is where things like money and fame and power can be highly deceptive. These are the devil's tools to get you to make decisions that are not good for you. The devil can bless you too, as my friend D1 likes to say. So when the devil blesses you with money and fame and fortune, but he's putting sugar in the monkey shit. It's sugar in the monkey shit because what happens is that you have people like Blueface and Krishan Rock who think that they're doing well because they're famous. They go to the little children they poison the minds of the kids, and they say, if you work hard, one day you can be like me. And I'm thinking, like what? Like what is it? What would you want them to be addicted to drugs like you? Do you want them to be alcoholics like you? Do you want them to be in jail like you? Because I think that right now, Blueface and Krishan Rock are both in jail. And so that's where the monkey shit part shows up. That the whole time you thought you were doing well because you were famous and you knew celebrities and you were on the Shade Room every week and on TV and making money. But really, you'd made a deal with the devil because all of that was leading you to a path that was going to create nothing but misery and self-destruction. Do you understand what I'm saying? And this is something that I hope people get. I hope I'm really kind of trying to be a voice in the woods on this because I can tell you I get a lot of pushback. I'd like for you to tell me, to validate some of this, that you see what I see, because I get a lot of pushback from people who say, Doc, we need you to be more relevant to the youth. I say, well, I talk to young people all the time. I have a ton of young people I mentor. Well, you need to be with the culture. I'm like, I can't be with the culture because the culture is killing them. Why would I, how can I claim to be an advocate for you when I'm supporting something that is openly destroying you, that's killing you in broad daylight? That doesn't make any sense. When I grew up, I didn't have parents that were trying to be one of your little friends. The elders in the community are not trying to fit into a sloppy, irresponsible, self-destructive culture that's being pushed by a bunch of 25-year-olds. The elders were the ones who said, this is stupid. What are you doing? You're destroying your life. So the reason I bring up this whole thing about the culture is because you can't talk about marriage in the Black community without talking about culture. You can't talk about marriage without talking about culture. Give me a yes if you understand what I'm saying. You can't. The culture shapes how you view marriage, whether or not you want to do it, how you do it, how you approach it. And I just, in my view, I just see mistakes everywhere, especially when I come to a place like Egypt, where they're not perfect, but they understand family. You come to Egypt, they understand. I talked to some brothers from Egypt today, and I said, it's interesting. Tell me what it's like, in terms of how is it an Egyptian you're trained to deal with people that you know and you care about. And he was telling me, he said, well, if you come to my neighborhood, I'm responsible for you. I am my brother's keeper. My job is to make sure that you're safe and you're okay. If you need something, he said, if the village knows that you need money to do something, they will come together and pull the money together to help you. If you get married and you have children, then you have a certain responsibility as a man. The man is the leader, the advisor, the elder, the person that gets the respect. The women are protected and loved, and all these other, right? So again, it doesn't mean that it's perfect. It's not perfect by any stretch, but there's sort of a code of behavior. There's a code of conduct. There's a discipline attached to things like family. So here's my first conclusion on this whole concept of whether or not people are getting married and why, is that if you're not prepared to be disciplined on some level, then you're probably not going to be a good fit for marriage. And the reality is that you have an undisciplined society.